How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about The Lair. This is from 2022 and put out by Shudder, and is directed by Neil Marshall and stars Charlotte Kirk, Jonathan Howard, and Jamie Bamber. And overall, this DVD was something that I passed by for quite a long time before I took a look at it. Yeah, it's got some pretty sweet embossing on it, but other than that, that's the Alien pose. Not the one with the egg, but, the Alien DVD release, so it's a portrait side. This just looks so much like just a generic Alien clone that I didn't really pay too much attention to it. A lot of the movies in the direct-to-video section, a lot of them are so-so, and I don't want to just buy up every single one. I would spend all my money on so-so movies. So I didn't really pay too much attention to this one because it looked like just a bad knockoff movie. But the thing is, I saw it around quite a bit. I saw several copies of this movie, different stores, and just after a while, I decided to pick it up and take a closer look at it. And that's when I saw two things that eventually sold me. I saw that it was a Shudder movie, which they don't mention on the front. You have to look at the back to see that. I saw it was a Shudder movie. Their movies are usually pretty decent. But I also saw this little writing on the top here from the director of The Descent. Way too small and not easy enough to see. The Descent was a really good horror movie where these girls are spelunking through a cave system and there's, something down there. It was really good. He also directed Dog Soldiers. Good movie as well. And it was those two things that made me decide to finally pick this thing up. Shudder's pretty good. Guy that did Dog Soldiers and The Descent later, I'll check it out, so I finally decided to pick this up, and I had decent hopes for it. But that being said, it didn't work out. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, I'm not a comedy teardown channel. I don't rag on movies, but I feel that I have to give this, honest analysis and review. And sadly, this movie came out super, super generic and also had a cheap feel behind it. Also, very, very forgettable because of the other two factors. And this is one that I felt that I had to really get this review out pretty quick because I knew that if I waited too long, I would just forget all about this movie. So, yeah, not great. That being said, the generic action, fun stuff, soldiers versus monsters, it's generic and forgettable, but it's still an okay, lazy Saturday afternoon movie. If you want to throw something on, watch some soldiers fight aliens and do a few little quips, it's not painfully bad. It's just not great, And I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the plot a little bit. We open up with these British fighter pilots. They get shot down in the desert, and they do the ejector seats, and they land in the desert, and they get surrounded by bad guys. Only one of them survives, and she runs away into a bunker, a mysterious bunker with a mysterious secret. And overall, the idea of exploring a mysterious bunker with a hidden past is a good idea. Sadly here, it's just not fleshed out enough, There are a few little clues, but it's not, for you Alien fans, there's no space jockey, You really gotta do the mystery, build it up, trying to figure out what's going on, the hidden horrible past. That really should have been this section here, but basically you go way too quick. Oh, a little bit of a mystery, and then you find the creatures in their tubes, and they, of course, shoot one of them open by mistake. He comes to life, goes on a killing spree. Now, she gets out of there, and she finds an American base that takes her in, but of course, no one's believing her story. And like that, we've gone from alien to aliens. This is a group of rejects here. They basically explain that everybody here screwed up in order to get sent here, and you get things like a guy that slept with his higher-up's daughter, a guy that accidentally shot one of his allies in the foot, and quite unfortunately, we get a black girl that's a kleptomaniac. I mean, I'm not the PC police or anything, but did we have to do that one? You know, give her a different backstory or give this backstory to someone else. Not great. But anyway, they're all a little bit jokey, and, you know, they kind of wear tough soldiers, will joke on each other a little bit, right? None of them really stand out. You know, they're kind of an amorphous blob of generic soldiers, and I think she's even interested in one of them, but I honestly kept forgetting which one that was. No real standouts here, you know. Anyway, you also get, like, the captain. I'm not sure if that's his ranking, but the boss. And he's got his eye patch, of course, and he's really gruff. Very generic, standard characters here at the base. There is one that I did like. One of the bad guys was captured, but it turns out he's just the driver. He's not a violent man. He's just trying to make his way in the world, and it's that whole case of you are my enemy, but you're not really a bad guy, and he's kind of sympathetic, and through him, we can learn the origin stories of these creatures, and yeah, overall, I like this guy as a character, and I could tell him apart, not just because of physical description, but because that he actually had a different character than everyone else who was a generic mess of tough people stereotypes, you know, so an actual different character for this one guy. But anyway, you know how I said this is the aliens segment? Well, the creature, apparently, him getting out caused a whole bunch more to get out, and now they're going to attack the base. And it's fine. I don't know how they found them. Apparently this base is supposed to be far enough away that none of the soldiers had any idea about the bunker, and I don't know why they would go straight there. Maybe they're hungry or something and they can smell them, maybe? I don't know. The creatures are coming to the base so the movie can happen. But anyway, they start to attack, and we do get one of this movie's pros is that when they attack, there is some good gore, and there is some good gags, and, you know, there is some effort here. That being said, nothing super stood out, but there was, you know, like some guy gets a fist through the face, and okay, that's cool, you know, and I'll complain about some of the CG later, but I do want to say for the gore, a majority of it does seem practical, and the aliens are people in suits, which, when I think about how bad they could look if they were CGI, I am really thankful for that. So it does do the gore and the gags associated with it fairly well. Not a standout, but fairly well. And again, from here on out, fight for survival, have a pretty good idea where this is going, you know? Like I said, generic plot, generic characters, but not painful, just generic, you know? So, lazy Saturday afternoon, see some soldiers fight aliens? Yeah, I get that, but it really could have been a lot better. And I hinted at it earlier. the CGI, when the movie has to use it, it's not super CGI heavy, but you do notice, and it does give you a hint of the budget, when they eject themselves out of their planes at the very beginning, it is definitely just a cutout from a green screen. Doesn't look great. And like muzzle flashes, I'm not usually a huge nerd about it, but they really, to me, just look like PNGs, you know? And it wasn't great there. And of course, a few cases of our old friend's CGI blood, which don't do that. But anyway, also with the cheap feel, the cinematography in this movie, when it's nighttime, it's okay because you get contrast, darks, lights, you know, shadows. And when it's night, it looks good. I mean, this is Neil Marshall who did The Descent. But when it's daytime, when it's daytime in this movie, it looks way too cheap. There's something about just taking a digital camera and pointing it at something and just getting this way too crisp, unartistic, just boring shot of something. And to be honest, you know, that way too clean and crisp look that bad digital photography gets, like, it reminded me of that Love, Death, and Robots episode where they're soldiers and they have, like, a werewolf on their team, and there were a few scenes in this movie I had to question myself and say, am I watching real people or really good CGI? You know, a few cases where they don't just move quite right and the cinematography looks kind of off. I was a little concerned that this might secretly be a really realistic cartoon, but I don't think it is. Yeah, no, I didn't like that. And really, with the cheap feel and the generic plot, I don't know if you guys know these, it really did feel like a high-budgeted Asylum action movie. You know, people know the Asylum for their mockbusters and for their Sharknado. They have a whole line of movies that are just really hyper-generic action movies, and it reminded me of one of those, but with a bigger than the Asylum budget, you know? And yeah, just so generic. And I look at this, and I'll tell you how I would fix it. First of all, when you do the Explore the Lab section, the alien part, focus on the mystery, make it a little bigger, make it a little more complex, give us the space jockey, something to really wonder about, and ask what these people are doing here. And in this section, don't have the girl be alone. She's our main character. Logic dictates that she won't die. In turn, no tension in this scene. Give her some friends. That will give her someone to talk to bounce ideas off of. And giving us a red shirt means that we could feasibly believe that someone would die in this scene, especially if we're not sure who our main character is yet. That would be so much better. More time, more mystery, and at least give us one other guy in this scene for her to be with. You know, more. And then, when the creatures attack the base, don't give us so flat characters. For real, all their backstories, they all screwed up to get here in some way, but almost any of their backstories could be completely interchangeable without really affecting the story or the characters. It was just random fact that doesn't matter. Make their backstories have meaning and change who they are as a character. Give them little gimmicks. And maybe you can't do that for everyone. It's okay to have some of them be red shirts and fall into the background, but at least give us a few distinct characters that we can know and root for. Make at least 3 to 5 of them really interesting. And keep the movie here. I won't spoil it, but I did not like the third act for this movie. They should have kept the movie for the finale at the base. Maybe give them an alien queen if you want to do a bigger climax, but just keep it simple survival. they do a third act. It's really redundant to the first, and there is a ton of bad decisions made in this third act. And yeah, major screw-ups. Just cut the third act. Don't do a 3-act structure. If you're knocking off Alien and Aliens, that is a 2-act structure, okay? By putting in this third act, you take time and budget away from the first two in order to give us something that doesn't really need to be there. If we took those 30 minutes away from the movie and gave the first 2 acts 15 more additional minutes to flesh things out better, this movie would have probably been so much better with a 2-act structure. And don't get me wrong, 3-act structure is very stable in most cases, you know? There's a reason why you do it. Birth, life, and death. Basic story. But it's not for everybody, and it's not for all stories. Jaws is 2 acts. Some stories need to be this way, and if all you're doing is an alien section and an aliens section, and then the third one is an unfocused mess... Okay, might have rambled for a little bit there. Sorry about that. But overall, as I said, very generic. It's not bad as in painful. I've seen a lot of painfully bad movies. I've seen a lot of frustrating movies. And this one just kind of is gonna be forgettable, and I don't know how long I'll remember it. But totally passable, especially if you guys just stumble across it streaming on Shudder. A good way to spend a lazy Saturday afternoon, especially if you're too tired and don't really have the energy to focus too much on a movie. A totally passable movie in that regard, but man, nowhere near as good as The Descent or anything, you know? Anyway, sorry about the rant. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Shudder playlist. I've talked about things like their Creepshow TV show, and also Nicolas Cage and The Color Out of Space. Some cool stuff. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Shudder playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.